Okay, so let's get started. So we already done the object creation, field creation, and we have done relationship creation, right? So the next topic, this is record type. This is also very important to understand, right? So what is record type? So when I explain about this object, I try to explain the contact object, right? So when you have an employee as well as the manager, both of them going to have. If you take the university system, students, lecturers, right? Both of them, we are going to use the contact object, right? The same object we are going to use. But we need to differentiate the lecturer and the student. The information we require to store for the student is different than the information we require to store for the lecturer, but not completely, right? Up to some level, we are going to store the same information, and after that, we are going to save the specific information for student and specific information for lecturer, right? If you use the same object, same UI, so everyone will have the same information where we need to skip the student's information for lecturer, lecturer's information for student. That is not efficient, right? So record type is a concept where we can have the different UI for different type of the users or different type of the concept we are going to save. So in Salesforce term, if I speak, the different types of record types we can have in order to differentiate the information we need to save for the same object. So the contact object, we can have one record type called student, one record type for lecturers, staff, right? So when we have like that, student record type will have the information which is required for student, and the lecturer record type will have the information which is required for the lecturer. So if you look at the object base, the object fields, everything will be same, right? In the UI, we are going to differentiate. We are going to have multiple UI. So Salesforce by default will allow us to have different UI for different record types. So when we need to use the one object to have the different type of records, we can go for record type. And in the UI, we can differentiate different UI for record type as well as some of the process. So for example, drop down values, right? So we can have one field. So the best example is Sri Lanka province and district, right? So let's say you have you can have the district and province. So Jaffna, anyway, like, so we can have district and province in the sense. So one province will have multiple district, right? If we wanted to map it like if someone is selecting the particular province, we have to display only the districts belonging to that particular province. If that is my requirement, there are two ways I can do it in Salesforce. One is called dependent pick list, as you can refer it, dependent pick list, which is very important. Another way is we can have multiple record types. So let's say we are creating province records and district records, and we can have the record type. So we can say if these are the districts belonging to this profile. Likewise, we can have drop downs and we can assign that for that. So yeah, I think it's confusing this example for you. So basically, if there's one field, we can have multiple values. Only few values we need to display for students, few values we need to display for lecturers. That's also we can handle in record type. So having record type, we can do multiple things. You can read about this record type documentation and stuff. And when you are about to do, if you have any questions, we can discuss that also. So this is very important because when you do a real system, you will end up with a situation at least somewhere you might need to use this record type, right? That's why this is very important section. Okay, so we are moving into the second major part, which is Salesforce UI. This is also similarly, I'm just going to introduce the UIs and you all have to create it. Like this time, you will spend lots of time. If few of you already started to create UI as a volunteers asked you to do. Anyway, that's fine. So Salesforce, we have two types of native UI, classic and lightning. So when we are about to do lightning, some of the cases it's actually forcefully related to the classic. So classic UI is a UI which we had Salesforce introduced initially. We didn't have the lightning UI. So after some time, they just moved to lightning UI. Now most of the client, 90% of the client is using lightning. So classic is actually going to die. So lightning UI, you can see it's available for everything. Even classic is available for everything, but lightning is the most welcome UI. So which is available for watch, phone, tabs, desktop, and everything. So the moment you log into the system, you already saw the UI, right? So I don't want to talk about that in detail. Yeah. So this is where we are going to do the development. Right. So in the UI part, I mentioned we can do the declarative point and click development, and we can do the code-based development. I think already everyone had heavy meal, right? I can see the tired in the face, so no worry. So that's why we design more hands-on, less speak. Otherwise, I can't speak now. Everyone will be sleeping like this, right? Okay. So type of UIs. This is also very important because this is where. So as I said, the UI, the look and feel, no matter how efficient or how functioning system you have made, if your UI is not looking good or if the UI is not user friendly, the entire system will be not usable, right? So this is where we need the UI. So the benefit of Salesforce, you can make the entire UI without any code-based development if your requirement is normal. So most of the clients using the standard UI for internal system, and in case if we need to give access to the customers, if we are going for website kind of thing only, they have to use the custom UI. Right. So in the standard UI, we have many type of UI: page layout, mini page layout, search layout, lightning record page, compact layout, likewise, right? We are going to see each and every UI. And first thing you wanted to, before going to UI, yeah. Sorry. So the thing you have to mention, even in the UI, right? So when you create a field, you created a field, right? You just save it. So now it's a time we need to add the field to the layout, right? The moment you are adding the field to the layout, you have to decide how you want to make this field work. Whether you want this field required or you want to have the field, yeah. Yeah, you want to have the field as a dependent field or read-only or controlling field, likewise you can do. So when you create the field, few of you might have noticed there's a checkbox called required, right? The same checkbox will be there when you are adding the field into the UI, but these two have two different meanings, right? If you make the field required, the time you are creating field, it will be required for everyone, right? System admin, if you are loading data, so data loader, import wizard, I already mentioned you have multiple ways to move the data from one org to another org. Even you don't need to create, so if you want to create some test data, you don't need to create one by one. You can even load it bulk, right? So when you do it also, that field is required. When you are making the fields to the page layout, that means page layout is the UI, right? So as I said, we can have multiple UI for multiple set of people. Even multiple UI for multiple record type. You can make some of the page layout this field required, some of the page not. But when you are making the field required, when you are creating the field, no matter whatever the page layout, whatever the record type, whatever the way you create data, that will be required. If you are making it required only in layouts, you can control it. Some of the layouts you can keep it required. Some of the layout you don't need to keep it required. Likewise, right? So when you design, you have to keep in mind those things. So now we'll go back to the system, right? So here you can go again to the object, right? So I'm not going to go to the connection option object, which we created, Right. So here you can see everything, right? So some of you already created the objects, but when you, I said when you create an object in develop mode, so when you go to the record mode, it should be visible, right? But you can see it's not visible, right? Yeah. So why it's not visible? We have created in the database, we didn't do the connector, right? When we do the connector only, it will be displaying for the users to enter value. So that connector is called tab. So we need to give the way the users can access the particular object, right? We created in database the data, this, our object is created, but we need to give the way to access, right? So before going to this page layout, we have to create tabs. Right, so I'm going to tabs. So I'm going to create tabs. Right, so I'm clicking new. So here I can choose the tab style, which tab I need it. Okay, let me go for it. About this thing, you don't need to worry anything about it. You can save it. Anyway, I'm going to give this as activity for all the objects, so no worry about that. So we created the tab. So once we created the tab, we can able to see the record in the UI. Since I just create object, I didn't create any, I think I didn't even create the fields here. So I can just see these values only, right? Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the context, right? So this is one, I have lots of fields and objects. So let's say I have all these fields in the layout. So what I have to do is I have to handle what informations I need to show. So if you look at this page, the entire page, right? So where we are displaying all the information we have to create. By default, there will be a page, but we might need to configure that. Or if you like it, if you are okay with the default page, we can go with that. This entire page is called as record page, right? So you can either go to the system object manager for that particular object, and you can see the record page here. Right? Or else as a shortcut, so this particular page, we didn't create the record page. This is a default page that is visible. Or else as a shortcut, you can go here and you can click on edit page. This will also will redirect to the page. Right? So when we go here, you can say the components here, right? Highlight panel, the page layout, so other things, and all available components will be here. It's getting loaded. So once it's loaded, we can drag and drop the things here and there, and we can organize the entire page. So here we have lots of things. So if we have those features, then we can use it. So maybe see, I'm going to drag and drop this related list, right? Likewise, I can do the drag and drop and I can save it, right? So this is how I can work with the record page. So you can see this is one area. When I click on detail, this is one area. When I click on news, this is one area. Likewise, I can, if I want, I can create more tabs here, more tabs here, more sections. Likewise, everything I can do by drag and drop from here. And the second thing, page layout. Page layout is the one we are deciding what are the fields we have to display. So after you created the fields, so when you go here, so you can see the field you created here and you can drag and drop here. If you want, we can create new section and we can organize left, right, and all possible ways we can organize the page layout, right? So how we are going to display the information. So if I go back here, so we have details. This is the page layout. Whatever the way you organize, this entire area will get changed, right? This is going to be very important because as I said, since we have this point and click and drag and drop going to take very less number of time for you, less effort. If you are going for the custom component or coding for everything, you will be spending long time. So it's very good, very much required to understand this area. It will save lots of time and effort of you. If you don't understand, you will drag and drop. This is not working, where I can't find this. So those kind of things. Anyway, you are going to do the activity now. That time you will understand that is not there, this is not there. Likewise, there are lots of things you might troubleshoot, right? So likewise. So this panel, as I mentioned, this is the highlight panel. Again, you can go to the object. So you can go to the compact layout. So here we have only the default one. You can create your own and you can decide what are the fields you are going to display in the highlight panel. You don't need to display everything in the highlight panel. So only the relevant information you can display. Rest of the things will be in the details. So for that, you will be doing the highlight panel. So there are lots of things there. So I'm not going to explain one by one, but you can explore it when you are doing the trailhead module, the search layout, list view, layout, hierarchical column. So when you are search something, so here, okay. So let's say we are going to, yeah. Okay. Okay, let's say I'm going here. So I have a list view here. So it's already created. I can even create more list view based on the condition to show the records in group. So how we should display in the list view, that's also you can configure. And when you search one contact, let's say I'm going to search Tim, right? So how this should display, that's also you can configure, right? So in the case I mentioned, you can when we already created multiple lookup relationships and master detail relationship, right? So when you are searching something, right, let's say Tim, how this page should display, right? This everything you can configure here. So you have search layouts, when how the search results should appear. We have hierarchy columns. We have yeah, lightning record page, page record related lookup filter. Likewise, everything you can handle here, right? So that's required some custom object that will be quite different, standard object that will be quite different. But this like everything one by one, if I am doing, I could do a session for like a week. So what I do, we will share the trailhead modules. When you go, you have to explore each and everything. But now today we are going to do the activity, right? So with this activity, you will have to, anyway, you will have to struggle, but you have to complete it with the support of us. So that time you will get comfortable up to some level with the layout. I won't be saying even, I can't say I'm comfortable with all the layout configuration right now, right? So nobody can say that, but still you can get comfortable with up to some level, because this is a basic. And this workshop, since it's a basic, we are only giving the basic. Second workshop onwards, we have to go into logic and different areas. That's why I'm covering all the basic here. right? So don't keep any pending work. So if you complete everything today only, we can go to the next workshop, next task, then only you can able to go in a right track, right? So let's start with the activities, right? So this activity is so small, so simple. I don't want to give the write down for anything. So we have 5 objects, right? All 5 objects, you are going to keep the compact layout, highlight panel, compact layout is the highlight panel, page layout. Page layout, you have to keep only the required. I mean, required means not the field marked as required. Whatever the field we create only should be there, right? So I will be moving back to that slide and show that slide there. So whatever the field we create only should be there in the page layout. The compact layout, it's up to your creative. You can decide what are the fields must require. So when you open a contact, what you have to see. So if I am giving a hint, how many active connections they have, how many inactive connections they have, likewise, right? How much they have to pay, like that. Those information. So likewise, you can decide what are the field you want to display in the highlight panel. Page layout, the fields we created should be there. If you feel any of the extra fields should be there, then you can keep it. So I will be checking randomly and I will ask questions. You have to say why you decided to keep this or why you decided to remove it. If you reason it out, then fine. So I'm saying you don't need to think the way I'm thinking. Like everyone has their own thinking way, right? That's why we have this kind of competitions and check for innovative ideas and all, right? So you can think your own way, but you have to reason it out. You should not say, I just made it like that, right? That's the only thing. And you have to make your record page. Where you have to do, you have to go to the object, then you can say to see the record page, page layout, compact layout. These 3 only you are going to edit. Now you are going to make the UI. And first of all, you have to create a tab for your objects, and only you can access the objects, right? So tabs, record page, page layout, compact layout. You are going to do, and you are going to share with us. That's the next activity. Now we can start. I'll be sending the volunteers to you. So you can trouble them and get it done. But you make sure you are understanding everything, because when you edit, you will find some issues and all. But I want you to face the issues, and let's see how you are going to handle that, right? Yeah. So basically, we need to create the record page, page layout, compact layout, and tabs for these objects. Online participants, you can do it, and if you have any question, you can ask us, right?